take off my glasses for the glare. Anyway, hi, I'm Jeannie. I'm continuing the video that I was making. I was talking about the 6 years of my childhood where I lived with Johnny and my mom. And the sequence was that I left Boulder, Colorado, moved to Port Lavaca, then to Dilley, not Dibble, Dilley, Texas. My grandmother, she was so cool. She says, "We live in Dilley. This is the place where everybody dillies around." I remember the jail. It wasn't the real jail, it was the old jail. It was just a big bunch of bars in the middle of the field. But that was the start of the change in my life. It started struggles again. So there's not much to tell about Dibble other than getting the beating from running away from home. But the nice thing about Grandma Peoples and Mamo was I wanted to be like both of them. Mamo, she had the big breast, and I remember just cuddling in her arms and feeling so warm and secure. And that's how I wanted to be with my children and my grandchildren. Just cuddle in my arms and be warm and secure. Now, my Grandma Peoples was Native American, and she had the long black hair. And I would sit on the side of the bed and I'd brush her hair and I would braid it. I got thin hair, but hers wasn't so thin. That is my best memory of Grandma, was sitting and braiding her hair. So I want to take the story. Now, my childhood is over. My 6 years is gone. When I was living in Port Lavaca and watching the Port Comfort. I was living in Port Comfort and watching the storm over Port Lavaca, the beautiful horizon of lightning. That year, we were picking cotton. That's what we were doing. We were picking cotton. I don't like picking cotton. It's hot. It's hard. I even tried cheating and putting rocks in the basket. They always in the cotton bag, but they always caught me. But anyway, trials and anxiety was getting heavy in Dilley, Texas. But then we moved to Tokyo, and I remember the drive to Tokyo. We pulled over to the side of the road to go to sleep. And then I never slept on the side of the road again in a car, so that was a new experience for me. And the trees were like monsters. And so the trees were really scary. And anyway, we stopped somewhere to pick pecans. And I'm wandering off again, all alone, moving away from everybody. And I just had a memory of Dilley, Texas, my daddy going fishing. I think that's where I don't fish, but I love to fish because I like to sit and listen to nature. Yeah, good memory. I'm so confusing. You're going, oh, this woman is crazy. Get to your story and keep it straight. Well, I can't keep it straight. So, anyway, I was walking in the woods, and I saw this sunken place, and I thought it was a dead person buried there. And I started to dig at it, and then I got scared, and I left, and I didn't tell anybody about the spot. And then I'm going later on, why I didn't tell somebody? It could have been somebody who was missing. Maybe it was nothing at all. Maybe it was just my imagination. I'm kind of good at not completing things. Anyway, when we were living in Tokyo. I think that's really where my trouble started, where my maladjustment started. Because Anita got married, I think, in Dili. Not sure. Later on, maybe I'll remember. I wasn't as close to as Anita as I was to Linda. But anyway, the lifestyle that my daddy had, I couldn't handle it. It was a lot of anxiety. And I started missing a lot of school because I skipped a lot of school. Sometimes I'd go to school and I'd just sit on the porch and never to go into the building. You can't say I didn't go to school because I did. I just didn't go in the building. I just sit there. One day I made it to City Hall and told them, I want to go home. I want to go home. I'm not happy. I want to go home. So they made it happen. But that year, we were at the cotton gin. They had this big fire pit. And I wanted to go look at the fire. So I started up the hill of the fire pit, never to realize that it was on fire too. I just didn't see the fire because the cotton waste, was burning from the bottom and up. And I burned both of my feet, second and third degree. And that year, my daddy had gave me shoes for Christmas. I couldn't wear my shoes. And it was so cold, it was snow, I couldn't wear my shoes. Anyway, I made it to Austin to be with my mamo. So maybe it was my mamo who got me. I don't know how it worked, but I wound up in Austin with my mamo. Then from there, another thought from my childhood, Mamo. She thought we were excellent singers. And she wanted to put us on the Cactus Pryor show so we could sing, the three of us. She was always having the three of us sing, and she was trying to get Cactus Pryor to have us on TV. Didn't happen. It was a good memory. Anyway, back to Tokyo. So they get me back to my memo. And that brings in another memory from my years, because my mother's brother, Wayne, he comes to stay with us. And, you trust your uncles, right? They're cool. So my uncle said, come lay down beside me. I'm not afraid to lay down beside my uncle. He's my uncle. He loves me. I'm safe. He started making sexual advantages to me. I'm so lucky, you know. My mom walks in the door and catches him and stops him. But then we got discord. There was a break, okay? Because what was I, 6, 7 years old? And I never forget, it was my fault that Wayne tried to touch me. Why on earth would a man want to touch a 6, 7-year-old little girl? Why? And why would it be the child's fault? I'm lucky I got escaped from that, but Anita did not. You got Anita. Linda escaped. Anita did not. And my mother allowed that man to come in our house time and time again. If I were my mother, I would have shot him. Don't you touch my daughter. Who are you? Dirty old man. But anyway, from Dibble, no, I don't know why I keep saying Dibble. From Austin, I made my way back to Colorado. I got in school. We wore shorts in the snow. You know, I was back in my life. It was good. So thankful that Johnny allowed me to come back because life was good with him. Tommy got in trouble one day there. She was chasing a rabbit, and she ran across the Chester drawers, and the mirror fell and cut off part of her ear. Tommy is always getting in some kind of trouble. She's a wild woman. I'm not wild woman. She's a wild woman. So, what is that song? Hey, hey, Paula, I want to marry you. So, I'm still a baby, but I had met, I think his name was Al Clausen, because Daryl Poole was, that's it. And so that was my little fantasy, and all the little love songs that went with it. So life was pretty good, back to normal, the land of plenty, the land of abundance. We moved to Corpus Christi. Linda was gone. Anita was gone. There was only me. So life wasn't going through smoothly in Corpus Christi. It started out smoothly, and then the trouble started. I started skipping school. I would just go hang out. I would go to the sock hops. They had sock hops back then. One night I asked permission to spend the night with my friend. And so I went to spend the night with my friend, and her mother didn't allow it. I was so ashamed, so embarrassed. I couldn't go home. I couldn't go home and say, hey, Mom. She wouldn't let me spend the night. So I spent the night all night long, just out, with nothing to do, no one to talk to. The rejection was more than I could handle. I went home the next morning. She said, "How was your night?" And I said, "Oh, I had fun. I had fun. It was great. It was great." I lied through my teeth. Never went to spend the night with anybody else again. If they ask, I just didn't do it. And anyway, I think I ran away from home. I'm on the swing set. It's dark and I'm swinging. Policeman comes up and asks me a couple of questions. I'm a runaway. He's talking to me. He's supposed to be looking for me, right? And he goes off. Well, I get myself in a little bit of trouble, get taken advantage of, but I make it home. I think the police finally found me. But anyway, I make it home. So they put me in detention for punishment. So I think I spend about a week in detention. You have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and mop the floors and eat and stuff. And they got little cameras that watch you while you sleep, but you're in your own cell. Thought that was kind of extreme, but they didn't keep me long enough to make any difference in my life anyway. But the difference that was really, really good, was I got a counselor. And I would go meet her, and we would sit down by the beach. And she said to me, anytime you have a problem and you don't have anybody to talk to, just write it down on paper. You can keep it, you can share it, or you can burn it. But just take all these anxieties that you have and put them on that paper. Just take it out from your mind and put it on the paper. I did that for years and years and years, and I would put all my bad feelings in these books, but then I would have to throw away the books because I was afraid my children would read them. And I didn't want them to know all of this stuff about me, how I felt, and everything. But anyway, I was very thankful for that lady. And of course, I continued to skip school. And so got back in school, and the principal called me to his office. What a wonderful man he was. He didn't punish me. He didn't kick me out of school or anything. And I was always getting in trouble with the teachers. I think I didn't pay attention. I think I still had an attitude. And anyway, he told me, he says, "I want you to go home and I want you to roll your hair and dress pretty for tomorrow." I felt very proud. I felt very happy. And the next day, my stepfather checked me out of school. And all the kids were laughing at me as I leaving. "Ha, ha, ha, you got expelled, you got expelled." I got expelled from life. I just didn't get expelled from school. So my stepfather, he had already burned all our childhood pictures, all our memory. He just burned them up. And then he took me to Austin, to Anita's house. At that time, Anita was married to Dale Clausen. And the only thing she wanted was my Social Security check. I remember she got in a fight with me, and she held me down, and my blouse was open for her husband to look upon me. And I didn't like that at all. Linda lived on the next street. She was living with Wayne Lee. And I was 14. 13. I was 13. We took off and we went to Mexico. I must have been 14. So I got my memory out of sync again because I was 14 because Linda was 15. And we went to Mexico for Linda to marry Wayne Lee. And Linda only smoked 5 packs of cigarettes a day. We got to Mexico, and so we're asking, Justice of the Peace, where's the Justice of the Peace? Everybody go, peace, 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 $5. Okay, that's not the kind of peace we wanted. Anyway, Linda got married. We got back to Texas. First thing that Wayne did to her was he picked up his rifle and he held it by the barrel and he hit her in the head with the rifle. I don't know how she loved him all these years. She did divorce him. He divorced her for another woman that he beat and abused too. But he stayed married to that woman, and Linda moved on. I signed for Linda to get married. So the first day of the 8th grade, I dropped out of school. I never understood. 7th grade, I never showed up. I made straight Fs. I made a perfect F all semester. And I was sent to the 8th grade. School system is not very good. But then I married just as I turned 14. I was basically homeless. Anita had kicked me out. She kept my Social Security check until I got married. The only time this man took a bath was when he had a date. We had a nice house, no electricity, no running water. I had to cook outside to make our own little campfire. I went to work. We lived in Austin. It was called Rat's Flat. That's where we lived. For years, I would just cringe at the thought of Rat's Flat. Oh, horrible, 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 horrible life. And it was only a year long, but it was horrible life. I peeled potatoes at the restaurant for extra money because Rufus didn't have any money. And then I left. I just left. And I wound up in Whitney, Texas. And I was working in a little restaurant. I didn't stay long. But the first day, the guy comes in and give him a glass of water. I drop it in his lap. He's nice, he's calm. And then I come with a coffee. Coffee goes in his lap too. I know I went to the drive-in movie. I know that I bought me a beautiful pink corduroy coat. It's a nice coat I bought for me. And then, I don't know how or when, but I wound up back in Corpus Christi. And I wound up with Anita. Anita was in Corpus Christi. Anita had left Dale. And we were in a motel room. I don't know why we were in a motel room, but we were in a motel room and we're both asleep. There's a knock on the door, and I get up and I kind of look out the window, and Anita says, "Who is it?" I said, "It's your husband." And so she gets up, she looks out the window, and she says, "No, it's your husband." They had come to get us, but we didn't go. And I wound up that year, I believe, getting a tattoo on my leg of a scorpion, and that was Anita's doing. I allowed her to talk me into getting a tattoo. So then I moved in with my mother, and Johnny and my mother had broken up because when my mother was working at a restaurant, she had fallen in love with the cook. And the cook was a black man. And they had to go to Albuquerque to get married. He was a very nice man, very, very nice man. They had a little girl, Chrissy. And, but when I was living with my mother at that time, when I was 16, it was before she married Reuben. But she was dating Reuben, and that was the reason why my life went to hell. You know, back in that day, black and whites didn't marry, except if you went to Albuquerque, New Mexico. And I think it was the 6th grade when I lived in Dilley that the first black person came into my classroom. She was a really nice girl. And in Corpus Christi, we went to Galveston, and it was the first time a black lady had waited on us. Now, I have no problem with that. It was just strange because it was always white, 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 white. No black, no black. Blacks were over here, whites were over here. So it was just after the segregation. But that's just, I remember that because it was just a strange feeling. Oh. Anyway, I met Raymond at the USO, go to play bingo. I think he was the first true love of my life. But I had this thing. I would see something or I'd understand something, and I would tell you, this is going to happen, don't do this. Anyway, when I turned 16, I married Raymond. Oh my, he was so handsome. He was in the Coast Guard, and he put on his whites. Oh, that man was so handsome. And he was on the ship Triton. It's a little ship. It was one that just, I don't even know if you call it a ship. But anyway, I would walk from Cole Avenue all over the navigation, over the tall bridge, and all the way down to navigation, give him a kiss because he was the quartermaster, and then I would turn around and go home. Oh, I love that man so much. Then he got isolated duty, and I got pregnant. I think we were married 2 weeks, and I got pregnant. And my mother had put me in beauty school. And he told me I didn't have to go because he was going to take care of me. So I quit, and I took care of him. Then he got that isolated duty. And I cried. I told him, you know, I'm never going to see you again. He said, this time, Jeannie, you're wrong. I'm coming back. So I went back to Port Lavaca, and I was living with Aunt Ann and Uncle Bob. I liked it. When I wake up in the morning, the sun would just hit my face. It was so warm, so nice. And the roosters, I love the roosters. And then I started selling Avon. But I don't know. Either Uncle Bob and I got cross or I just got unhappy. I don't know. But anyway, I left and I went back to Corpus Christi and I got me an apartment. I go see my mom. Have you noticed I don't make eye contact with my eyes? I never look into anybody's eyes. I don't even look into my eyes. While I'm doing these videos, I'm going to have to learn to look into my eyes and look at myself and not look away. So that's another thing I need to learn to do. Anyway, I got me a nice little apartment. I was happy. I was content with my absent husband that wasn't allowed to write me or anything because of his isolated duty. I was like 7 months pregnant. And I went to see my mom. And I said to my mom, hey, let's go fix the baby's nursery. It's time to fix the baby's nursery. My mama looked at me and she says, why? The baby might die. I left and I cried. That statement changed my life. Was she so cruel? Did she not know what she had said to me? Anyway, 2 weeks later, I went back to my mom's house. And my mommy was so excited. Linda's gonna have a baby. And I said, how far pregnant is she? She said, oh, she's 6 weeks. We need to go buy stuff for the baby. Well, we couldn't buy furniture for my baby who was going to be born in 2 months. We couldn't set up the nursery for my child. We couldn't buy clothes for my child because my child might die. My child. I just looked at my mother and I says, why? Don't you think maybe the baby will die? And I walked away. And I moved out of my pretty apartment that I had where I was, and I cut myself from all my military friends. And I started kind of running wild, pregnant and wild. Maybe I wasn't wild then. But I moved into the house that my mother used to live in. Where I met Raymond. One time Raymond came over to see me when we were going together and he fell asleep. I painted his fingernails red and I put makeup on him. Big bright red lipstick. He wakes up and he goes, oh, I got to go to the store. And I said, no, don't go. You got to stay. You got to wash your face, you know. But he left anyway. I don't know what he needed so bad from the store. He came home and he was so mad. I said, I told you you had to wash your face. You just didn't listen. God, that man was so gorgeous. Still today, I think he's gorgeous. And anyway, when it was time for Chrissy to be born, I went back to my mother's house, and she was in no hurry to take me to the hospital. But anyway, we got to the Navy base, and everybody told me, don't get a spinal. So what do? I get a spinal. And they keep pushing my head down. And there was a black couple and they had a baby too. And the wife was saying, "Oh, have you seen the baby yet? Have you seen the baby yet?" And the father was all upset because he couldn't find his baby. All that was in the nursery were white babies. And he was getting upset because there wasn't no little black baby out there. So where was his baby? So about 3 days later, the baby had gotten its color. And I didn't know, or maybe it was just that couple where the baby's color hadn't developed yet. It was really cute. And then I think then, you know, my mom did something else. I can't remember what my mom did. But I moved again, and I moved to a little house on North Beach. And it was right over the top of the water, and I could just lay there and watch the crabs and the fish play out my window. It was really cool. But I didn't bond with my baby. And I started being unfaithful to my husband. And then I wound up in West Virginia. Oh, I hate West Virginia. I think I don't even want to tell the stories of West Virginia. It was so traumatizing. I went to work. I don't know where I went to work in a bar, and the men had to buy you a drink, and so they give you a jigger of whiskey, and they give you a Coke, and you would take the whiskey, and as you drink the Coke, you would spit the whiskey into the Coke. So you never really drank it, and so you never got drunk because you weren't really drinking the drinks that the men were buying you. And Chrissy was in a walker, and it was cold, and I didn't have a refrigerator, so I had to put my milk in the window to let it freeze, and then I would get, "Oh, I don't have a refrigerator. This freezing cold weather, my milk's going to go bad." But anyway, Chrissy was walking around in her little walker, and she kept going to the space heater. I couldn't keep her away from the space heater. So I decided, well, maybe I should just let her go. Because if I'm in the kitchen and she gets to that space heater, she's going to catch on fire. So I let her get to the space heater, and she reached out to touch the fire, and she got burned. I don't know who cried harder, me or her. But she never went to the space heater again. And I thought I would overdose on aspirin. I tried to kill myself. Don't waste your time with aspirins. It doesn't work. Anyway, I lost Chrissy. I forgot Chrissy. I lost her because I didn't remember that I had a child. I finished my nervous breakdown, I guess. Because when I was in West Virginia, Raymond found me. I don't know how he found me.